Hello everyone, and welcome back to Canal Sidings. Been a long time since my last video because I've not been doing any modelling because I've had a real problem with a cough and a cold which started a few days after I posted on the 19th of November and has hardly left me at the moment. I'm feeling better now, but I've still got a very croaky voice, an occasional cough, and I've still got aches and pains from where I was coughing for so long. But anyway, enough of that. I didn't do very much modelling for obvious reasons, but I have got a couple of things that I've made a start on that I can talk about in what probably will be a relatively short video this time. The first thing I did was had a play making static grass tufts, as you can see here, and they're made using techniques that I picked up off the internet and various other places. The two most relevant people to look at are Luke Towan at Boulder Creek Model Railroad and our own Terrain Tutor. I'll drop a link to both of their versions of making static grass tufts and flowering grass tufts down in the description of the video. But as you can see, I've made quite a few here. This is parchment, it's kitchen parchment paper, and essentially it's just a blob of PVA, and then static grass dropped into it. The static grass is standing up, but not really as well as I would like it to. And I think that may be because the battery in my static grass applicator is going a bit off, so I'm going to have to do some experiments with that. But when I didn't feel that well while I was doing it, you just can't really concentrate on whether things are going right or wrong, so it was only an experiment anyway. What I then did with them was to cut a few off and produce a few flowering tufts. I'll take them out one at a time, it'd be easier. There's one there in red, which looks quite nice. It would be nice if the flowers stood up a little higher from it. There's another one there in orange, which I think looks particularly good as a colour. There were three on there, but I lost one. This is the yellow material that I used, and I think as a yellow it's far too bright, so I need a slightly more citrus yellow than that for very low growing stuff like gorse or whatever it might be. My wife did say that that would work very well on taller plants, so I may try that. The purple also works quite well. These are very small tufts, but it works okay to make flowering plants. The blue is a complete failure. It's such an awful blue that I don't know any plants that are that colour. But there you go. But that's my first attempt at making flowering grass tufts, so I shall have another go at that in due course. The materials that I used for the flowers and the grasses are as follows. The grasses are made from two different sizes, a 2mm summer blend static grass and a 6mm spring blend static grass. All of it came, this is the mix actually, all of it came from WWS, which is War World Scenics, which you'll find on eBay if you just look them up. And that went through the static grass applicator to produce the tufts. The flowers are also made from mostly War World Scenics in the four colours: yellow, red, blue, those two not very good, and purple. Oops, you can't see that one, it's shining off the light, which are actually quite good. They're just a flock blend. They all look about the same, and they're just material like that, which if you can get it to stick in the right place can look like flowers. The orange ones were made from a different material, which is this, which is actually from a company called Gale Force 9 Scenics, and I can't remember the company I bought them from, but I will put a link up again in the bottom of the video if you want to find it. This is supposed to be autumn scatter material, but it actually works incredibly well as flowers, and it's got a bit of green in it which adds the odd leaf in amongst them as well. So I think that's very good. The Terrain Tutor actually suggested that, and I think he's right. Okay, that's really all the modelling that I've done since the last video. Not a lot really, but I have spent my time on something totally different, and something that I think I might have mentioned in the last video, which is my next task, which is I want to continue on the canal area of the layout, and I want to get the warehouse behind the track and the canal, the one that butts up against the back scene that hides the sector plate, and I've made a start on that warehouse, but I've made a start in possibly a way that many of you won't ever have seen before. So I'll get a little bit different stuff in front of the camera and we'll recontinue. Okay, what we're looking at here is a cutter. Some of you may have heard of these before, but it's not something I'd heard of until about 6 months ago, and I thought it was a good idea then, and thought I might try and do something about using one. And while I was laid up not feeling very well, I spent a lot of time on the internet researching what you could do with these. I first saw one of these on the SJ Model Railways channel, which is Simon Jones, and he's used one to make some really nice windows and some valencing. I think he bought the valencing, and some walls, etc., for his station building on his model railway. I'll put a link up to his channel as well. And ever since I saw that, I thought, I wonder if I could use one. Anyway, during the enforced absence from modelling, I spent a lot of time on RMWeb, where they have a very active forum about cutters in general and silhouette in particular. It runs to some 67 pages now, so there's a lot on there, a lot of information, and lots of links to other to other sites, other forums, where other pieces of information are available. So what I'll do is I'll show you what this is, I'll show you what I've done with it, and then we'll talk about exactly what else I intend to do. So this actually is what you could call a plotter. This carriage moves about and the work moves backwards and forwards in here, and in here you can have, if it was a plotter, just a pen like this. This is a Sharpie pen. You don't get this with it. I just happened to buy this, and you can then drop that down into the holder and it will plot. What I've actually got in it is what it's really meant for, which is its cutter. And this is the cutter, which I can never get hold of. There we go. In there, in the end, in that hole there, it has a very tiny knife, which you can adjust the depth of by turning this ring, and you can do that either in the front of the cutter. You get that into its ratchet and get it to drop in, and now as you turn this, it will change the height of the blade. You also, with the cutter, get the option of doing it like this as well, if you, which I've not worked out how to do yet. You get the option of doing it like this as well, so you can turn it like that. I'm not struck by either of these methods, to be perfectly honest. Can never get that. There we go. Right, now I can turn it. But of course, as soon as you get that on, you can't see the red line, so it doesn't really help very much. You have to line it up to that line, and apparently each step represents about 0.2 of a millimetre of cut depth. I have used this blade, but it isn't the one that I favour, because this is made by Silhouette themselves, and when the blade goes blunt, and it will eventually, then you have to buy the whole assembly, and that assembly will cost £12 plus. So I haven't chosen to use that. I'll put it back in there to protect it. Just lock it like that. What I use is a blade that I learnt about on the forum topic, which is this one, which is actually a much more solid affair, made of aluminium. The adjustment for the depth of cut is turning this knob. I won't turn it, and the blade sticks out the bottom there, and if you're lucky and I turn this slowly, you might just be able to catch the blade in the light. You might not. I don't know whether you can see that. I can't see it flashing on the monitor, but there is definitely a blade there. I can see it flashing as I do this. There's definitely a blade there and it's identical to the blade that's in the Silhouette version in terms of its thickness and its angle. This is what's known as the CB09 holder, and the blades in it are replaceable, and they look like this. Let me get one out. They're not easy to get hold of. I need a pair of tweezers to get it out, I think. There we go. There is a blade. The actual cutting piece is under the blue safety cover, and this end piece sits up inside the unit. You also, when you fit the blade, have to fit one of these tiny little springs, and you fit that over the blade, and then it drops down, and that helps to push it up into the tool so that it lifts out of the material. I think that might be one of the flaws of it, because there is a problem. I've just thrown something on the floor and I don't know what it is. Let's put this back in here, because otherwise I'll lose it. They're ever so small, and that goes in there. I've just dropped something on the floor, but I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'll shove that over there. It isn't a cutter, so that's alright, and it isn't a blade. Right, okay, so that's what we're talking about, and this is actually the Silhouette portrait. The web page, the forum, talks about the Silhouette Cameo, which is just a wider version of the portrait. Sorry, my voice is going. Try and bring it back. The way it operates is you have a power supply that you plug into it, which I haven't got here, and a USB cable connected to your computer. On the computer you run the Silhouette software, which you get with it. On a disc, and you also get a disc of pre-cut shapes, I think. Yeah. Silhouette Studio instructional video, okay, and then Silhouette Studio. No, you don't. You get some built-in shapes. The whole point of these, what they're aimed at, is the crafter who makes greetings cards and the like, and you get pictures of various things that you can cut out, basketballs and letters of the alphabet in various fonts, most of which as modelers is useless to us. The Silhouette Studio software does allow you to draw your own shapes, etc., but it isn't very good. And what is recommended by most of the people on the forum is a program called Inkscape, which is actually free, and I'm told it's very similar to Adobe Illustrator. As I don't know Adobe Illustrator, I have no idea about that, but I used Inkscape to do what I've done with the cutter, and it's worked reasonably well. I'm not going to make it cut because basically it's like watching paint dry. It just makes a lot of noise and moves about, and eventually it cuts what you want. But what you do to make a cut is you use this, or one of these. This is again a silhouette version. It says it's somewhere on it. There it is. It says it's the silhouette version. It's underneath there, and this has got, it is actually sticky, and you stick whatever you want to cut to it. You then put it in here with the arrow as central as possible, and then press the load button, which is this one. It loads in, and then you control it from the PC thereafter. You can excuse me, you can stick plasticard to it, and that is all I've ever cut. I have actually managed to cut 10 and 15 thou plasticard, but what I'm actually trying to do, get what I've got here, it's all falling apart. Right, I'll just push this out. Oops, slam the lid down. I'll just push this out of the way and get rid of that, and you can see what I've actually cut so far. This is the front wall of the said warehouse, and it's been cut in 10 thou material, 10 thou plasticard. Now I've cut it in various pieces. There's one here that's got no holes in it, but what I need to do is get it thicker than this. What I wanted was 30 thou, but there is no way that machine will cut 30 thou. It's just not possible. 30 thou material is thicker than anybody has ever tried cutting with it. 20 thou apparently you can score, but cutting it is nearly impossible. 15 thou I did manage to cut, but it was such hard work for the cutter and took so long that to cut 2 thicknesses of 15 thou took more than twice as long as cutting 3 thicknesses of 10 thou. So I'm deciding to stick with 10 thou, and Simon Jones actually uses only 10 thou, and so do most of the people on the RMWeb topic. And a lot of them are using it to make pre-grouping coaches with panelled sides, etc. So there's some really good stuff going. I'll show you something that's much more intricate than this in a minute. But essentially the way I intend to build the warehouse is I have 2 of those, 2 of those, and these 2. And what I will do is I will use those 2 to make that wall, and then I will overlay it with these 2, and then I will overlay it again with these 2. So I have 3 laminations of 10 thou, which will give me 30 thou thickness, and I will put them together with solvent, styrene solvent. Because they overlap, then they should be strong. The holes are to allow the solvent to vent off. But what I've also discovered is that people don't actually use the aggressive solvents. They use limonene, which is a much less aggressive solvent. I don't think you can see through that. All those holes line up in every piece, about down to the one that hasn't got any, and all the windows line up because it does cut quite accurately. In order to cut it, I use its maximum force, its slowest speed, and set the blade so that it will just go through 10 thou material. And then I actually cut 3 times You can set it up to do a double cut, which I do, and then I do a single cut afterwards. If you don't take the carrier and the job out of the cutter at the end, it doesn't eject it, so it just goes back to the start. You can then do another cut and it will cut in exactly the same place. And as you can see if you look close, it's very good at the way it cuts out of the 10 thou material. There's a tiny bit of clean-up going to be needed in some of the corners, but for me to have cut all those window apertures even once in 30 thou material would have taken me more than the approximately 2 hours it took to cut all this out. And while the cutter was cutting this out, I didn't have to do anything. I just reloaded it every time it needed new material. So the next job will be to join all that together, and of course into those myriad of window openings we need a window. And what I've done is I have created this, which is quite intricate and was all cut out of 10 thou material by the cutter. Now I'm going to need a lot of these, but what I'd like to do is, if I can point at this, that area there is meant to represent an opening, an openable part of the window. So what I thought of doing was cutting another one of these for each window with that piece missing, so that this bit actually appears to be recessed and therefore sat on the back. And I think that will look better. I know I can do that because it's cut this out and it's cut those out accurately, so the accuracy of cutting is not in dispute, only whether it can get through the material. And this is again 10 thou. So what I intend to do is to cut all those out. This is the front wall, and I've got a wall that comes from that this way, which won't have any windows in it, and then a wall that goes this way, which I think will have 6 more windows, then a wall that goes that way, which will probably have 6 more windows, then one that goes that way, which might have 3, and then at this end I'm going to have a slightly lower building, because that's the one where the vehicles go through on the Valor car system. So now that I've done all this drawing, the Inkscape drawings can be transformed and moved over to doing the other walls relatively easily. I'll just cut them shorter where I need to, and redraw them. So that's the theory. I'm waiting for a less aggressive solvent to arrive, which is called limonene, which I also found out about on the forum. And people who use limonene say they actually don't need holes, but I thought, well, I'll put some holes in and we'll see how it goes, because what you don't want it to do is warp. And apparently the one thing to really avoid is Deluxe Materials Plastic Magic. If you're going to laminate sheets of material together, that is the worst to use. It's fine for general assembly, but for big laminations apparently it's a no-no. It's not all plain sailing, of course, because when I was trying to cut 15 thou, here's a piece of 15 thou, which I did manage to cut, but I don't know if you can see that. If I get the light to shine on it, you might be able to see some scratch lines there where the cutter didn't clear the material as it moved. Now to me that's not a problem, but if this was meant to be a finished face it would be a real problem. But it's quite ragged where it's cut out. This is, as I say, this is 15 thou material, so I could have used 2, but that took ages to cut. And I tried to cut another one and do it quicker, and as you can see, this is it as it's come off the tool. It hasn't cut at all. It hasn't actually cut through. So trying to do it any quicker than that just didn't work. This is a test piece that I cut out originally, which of course worked. But you can also see a lot of scratches on that as well. They are just scratches where the tool hasn't quite lifted. This is a piece of 10 thou that was a complete disaster. What I did was I told it to cut everything in one go, So I set it up to cut all the holes and cut all the window recesses. And what it did was it cut all the window recesses, went to cut the holes, went to, now where did it go? That hole there, and cut it, although it didn't get through, and then shot off across the sheet, actually with the cutter down, cutting all through the sheet, right the way across. So that was a complete disaster. I don't know what happened, there was a glitch or something, so things can go wrong. And of course, if it's only 10 thou material, which I buy from a company called Station Road Baseboards, a sheet of 10 thou plasticard, which is bigger than that blue area there. It's actually nearly as wide as this and sticks out to about here, so it is definitely bigger than that. That cost me 37p, so that was not a lot to waste. But as you can see, it's not all perfect. Anyway, my voice has had enough now. I think you can hear I'm starting to croak badly. I feel perfectly okay, but my voice just won't work. So what I'm going to do is wind this video up, and I'm going to say thanks for watching, and everybody, to all my subscribers and everybody who's watched my videos, have a great Christmas. Thank you for supporting me on YouTube. The 100 that I celebrated about a month ago has now gone well past 200 subscribers, and my last two videos have had well over 1,000 views each now, and I've normally been getting 400 to 500, so things are looking up. I hope that this will also be of interest to people. I might be back with a bonus video during the week between Christmas and New Year, which will be very different. I'll say nothing more about it. It won't be Canal Sidings, or I might have to defer that until after New Year. It depends how much time I've got. But it will allow me to play with a new Christmas present that I'm about to get. So that's all I've got to say for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.